Square Enix just released a new version of Final Fantasy V for iOS, Android, and Steam. Part of the Pixel Remaster series, this is a 2D remaster of one of the most underrated Japanese RPGs of all time. Given that Final Fantasy V has already had several remakes over the years, you might be wondering how this one compares to the others. Is it the best version of the game, and is it worth the price? This video will hopefully answer those questions. Final Fantasy V is a traditional Japanese RPG, where you control a party of 4 characters on an epic quest to save the world. You'll travel a large overworld, explore fiendish dungeons, and challenge deadly monsters. Enemies are fought in random encounters, and you should expect to see a lot of them. The game is a mostly linear experience, but as you get deeper into the story and unlock more advanced modes of transportation, more and more of the world opens up for exploration. And Final Fantasy V is full of secrets to find. Unlike most Final Fantasy games, you'll have your full party of characters almost from the start of the game, and the heroes are functionally identical to each other. Instead, the gameplay is built around an expanded version of the job system, first introduced in Final Fantasy III. Each character's attributes and abilities are based on their currently equipped job, and you can freely switch between them on the main menu. The main selling point is the addition of the ability system. As the heroes defeat monsters, they earn ability points, which unlock new battle commands and passive skills from the jobs they have equipped. Once mastered, these abilities can then be attached to other jobs, creating hundreds of unique combinations, such as a knight who can steal items from monsters, or a dragoon who can use blue magic. The game still revolves mostly around dungeon crawling, but for the first time in the series, dungeons are a bit more than just monsters and treasure. The dungeons have a lot of variation, the environments are fun to explore, and some even include a bit of puzzle solving. The Pixel Remaster only includes the content that was in the original game. Unfortunately, that means no extra jobs to find and no super dungeon to challenge. That said, while the bonus content from the previous versions of the game was a nice incentive to keep playing past the endgame, Final Fantasy V still has plenty of content without it. This game is advertised as the ultimate Pixel Remaster, and for some, that's gonna be a controversial statement. The characters get a fresh new look, but stay very close to the style of the original game. Monsters are pretty much taken straight out of the Game Boy Advance version, while battle arenas have been carefully redrawn in the same style, but with added depth and detail and updated for larger resolutions. Towns, dungeons, and other environments look better than ever, with vibrant colors and subtle shading. Fire, water, and other visual effects fit right into the 16-bit graphics and can be downright beautiful. Check out this scene from the intro where the wind crystal shatters. There's no character portraits to accompany the dialogue in this version, although I personally prefer the game without them. And as with the previous Pixel remasters, a lot of people are unhappy with the standard font used for the game's text. But there are simple ways to fix this, if you're on a PC. My only gripe with the graphics is the screen scrolling. It's so choppy sometimes, it's almost as bad as in the original Super Nintendo version. I don't know, maybe it's just my computer? While the remastered pixel graphics may not be to everyone's taste, the rearranged soundtrack is a masterpiece. The Overland theme vibrates with adventurous feeling. The battle theme gets the blood pumping with energetic trumpets, and I seriously got misty-eyed when the flute and violin kicked in on the prelude as the crystals bestowed their blessings upon the heroes. And since you asked, yes. Battle at the Big Bridge does have electric guitars and heavy metal drums mixed in with the trumpets and the piano. It's still the same song, but now has the power to bring dead kittens back to life. A great feature of the Pixel remasters is that the background music continues from where it left off after a battle ends. It's a small thing, but it makes dungeon crawling so much more enjoyable. Combat uses the famous active time battle system, where characters have an action bar that fills up in real time and get to make a move when it's full. Characters can attack, defend, and use items, and each character also gets one or more special commands, depending on their current job and equipped abilities. Combat is simple but fun, and the active time battle system really keeps you on your toes. You can now switch between characters with a full gauge, giving you even more control over the flow of the battle. But against familiar foes, you can safely activate the Pixel Remaster's Auto Battle feature. Auto Battle can be toggled on and off at any time, and while it's active, battle speed is increased and the characters will repeat their last orders over and over. While I found myself using this feature a lot less than in the previous Pixel remasters, Auto Battle is a godsend for grinding levels and learning blue magic spells. Final Fantasy V is a fairly easy game, though some fights can be challenging depending on what jobs and abilities you happen to have unlocked. The overall difficulty of the Pixel Remaster feels very close to the original, though I think some of the monsters have been toned down just a bit. Most of the gameplay changes and bug fixes introduced in the previous remakes of Final Fantasy V are still there in the Pixel Remaster. There's diagonal movement in towns and dungeons and on the world map, and you can hold down a button to dash even if you don't have a thief in your party. You now have a minimap to help you navigate both on the world map and in towns and dungeons. It's helpful, but a bit unnecessary in my opinion. You can toggle it off with a button press in towns and dungeons, but not on the world map. There's also a quick save feature, and the game even autosaves every time you enter a new screen. Final Fantasy V was already pretty lenient in its placement of save points, so I think the Pixel Remaster goes a bit too far here. But at least you can keep trying different job combinations against a boss without having to redo too much of the dungeon. Final Fantasy V tells the story of Bartz, Lena, Galuf, and Faris, 4 strangers who are drawn into adventure when the world's elemental crystals are threatened by an unknown force. The heroes are chosen by the crystals as the Warriors of Light and go on a quest to prevent the resurrection of an ancient evil. Players who expect the same sort of hard-hitting, character-focused story found in Final Fantasy IV may be disappointed, as this is a more lighthearted experience. It's not so much a gripping drama as it is a swashbuckling tale of adventure. But that's not to say that the story is bad. There's lots of dialogue, some really hype scenarios, and tons of surprises to keep you glued to the screen. The Pixel Remaster's English translation is based on the Game Boy Advance version, but with a few new tweaks here and there. And if you don't want to play the game in English, no worries, there's plenty of other languages to choose from. With all that said, is the Pixel Remaster worth your money? Before I get into that, I'd be super grateful if you could hit the like button and leave a quick comment, as it really helps the video reach more people. And if you like this type of content, consider subscribing to my channel. Final Fantasy V is a classic JRPG with a charming story, addictive gameplay, and plenty of secrets to find. It's good for about 20 to 30 hours from start to finish, but you could easily spend twice that long with the game if you're a completionist. With the release of the Pixel Remaster, the previous mobile and Steam versions of the game are no longer available for sale. While I personally didn't like the way they looked, I do acknowledge that for many people they remain the definitive version of Final Fantasy V. The Pixel Remaster doesn't come with the bonus content from the previous releases, and with the exception of the rearranged soundtrack, it's really not a massive upgrade over the other versions of the game. If you already own an older version of Final Fantasy V, I wouldn't run out and buy this one. But if you're a new fan who's looking for a great way to play this amazing game, then the Pixel Remaster won't let you down. If you want to hear more about Final Fantasy V, I'm working on a retrospective video essay about the game, which I'll link right here when it's done. Fair warning, it's gonna be a long video with a lot of spoilers.